Our Future of Apparel study indicates that the consumer is willing to pay more for sustainable products, but they often don't know when they're buying sustainable products or not. So brands need to do a much better job of telling their story around sustainability to make sure the consumer understands and is willing to pay that extra amount in order to have a more sustainable product. The idea of sustainability is a complicated one. There's no simple answers here. There are very few products that are carbon zero or have the ability to be carbon zero. You might make a shoe out of entirely recyclable materials, but if it's made in Asia and spends 2 months on a boat getting across the ocean, you're clearly not carbon zero. So it's a very complicated process. I don't think the consumer really understands all the elements of what makes a product sustainable. I also think it's important that brands be humble in what they're claiming. I think, again, because it's so complicated, because it's a difficult topic, nobody is perfect here, and brands should not brag about their minor advances, but they should share those with the consumer. And again, I think we need to make it very clear to the consumer what efforts a brand is making around sustainability so they know what kind of products they're buying. I think we can look at sustainability sort of on a continuum, and I think people have always been concerned about living more sustainable lives, whether it's through recycling, using their own personal beverage vessels as opposed to disposable water bottles and so forth. But I think this issue has really become much more intensive in the last few years as the real consequences of climate change are becoming apparent. The danger signs that are out there that if we don't do something immediately, we're going to find ourselves in a real difficult situation. So I think this idea has really been elevated in the consumer's mind and has become much more important. I also think that the Gen Z and millennial consumer are very concerned about sustainability, and as they become a larger and larger portion of the overall population, it's going to shift public opinion even further down the line towards more sustainable lifestyles. While I think the smaller brands have taken the high ground here so far in the battle for sustainable messages, every brand can participate. And it's interesting, many of the large brands have shied away from talking about sustainability because they knew that their efforts were really incremental. And while they're working hard at it, we're not making massive advances. And so in many ways, I think the big brands were afraid to talk about their sustainable efforts because they felt they would be called out for not being 100% perfect here. And again, nobody's ever going to be perfect. We need to understand that element to the equation. But I think every brand can participate in this, and every brand ought to be working really hard to make sure that they are making their products more sustainably, whether it's in the packaging, the delivery, the manufacturing technique, and finally in the product itself.